Once a year, the peaceful surroundings of this beautiful chateau are shattered as its impressive parklands reverberate to the sound of motorsport. Bonjour et bienvenue au Chateau Impney Hillclimb. Well, you know, something like that. I'm not really in France, I'm actually in Worcestershire, although that's easy to forget with this incredible heat, beautiful sunshine, and the stunning surroundings of Chateau Impney near Droitwich Spa. I'm actually here this weekend to see over 200 competitors in a wide variety of machinery battle it out up the twisty hill climb to see who will be victorious and claim the 2018 title.
It's a wonderful event, right? It's intimate, it's casual, it's got a very laid-back atmosphere, but it's got, it's in a phenomenal setting and phenomenal cars.
It's really amazing for families. There's such a variety of cars. It's not just vintage. They've got modern stuff. They've got loads of supercars this year.
Wherever you look, every car is a bit different. There's some crazy specials that are built out of oddball stuff.
You know, where else can you see really stupid early Edwardian stuff going up the hill with super fast, almost Formula One cars?
They want to make it feel like you're going to someone's house party, and it has that whole vibe. It's very light. It's just a day out with your mates. It's great fun.
Keep pinching myself that we're part of it. I'm very privileged to have come since its inception. Again, I brought my Mustang here the first year, and I had to apologise for cutting up some flower beds.
All the competitors here will do timed runs up a tough course that weaves its way through the woodlands, passing the crowds. Then it's up and by the Chateau Impney's ornate gardens, before hitting the brakes hard into the roundabout. Then it's uphill and sprint across the line, hopefully setting a fast time at the end. So now we know what everyone has to do, and there's just one thing for it. Let's get into the action with Martin Haven.
Here we are then, ready for our very first car. Tom Waterfield blasts off the line in his 1929 Fraser Nash Supersports, 1500cc four-cylinder car. And we start with some of our most elderly competitors, but take a look at this. Do not expect these guys to be taking it easy or to be slow. Fraser Nash, very well-known sports car. Well, a 47.52 for Tom Waterfield. Here's another similar Fraser Nash Supersports. This is Eddie Williams. And look at the commitment he's showing. Fantastic stuff. Eddie Williams pushing on hard down into the roundabout. Got to get your braking right. This is one of the critical areas, because here the climb to the line will be compromised. And Eddie Williams, very quick, 46.49. Tim Neller in a Riley Super Sprite. This is much more recent, dates back only to 1933. The car's only been used in competition for the last 4 years or so, but Tim very experienced. And really nice exit there from Raven's Nest. Superb stuff. 49.84 for Tim Neller. Beautiful turbolago of Marcus Black. Just listen to that 4-litre 6-cylinder throaty sound as he paused on the power. And this is a really nice looking run. Oh, a little bit of grass, but keeps it all together. And across the line he goes. 49.12 for Marcus Black. Little lock up from David Pryke. This is a 1936 Morgan Riley. Morgan based not too far away in the Malvern Hills. And again, lots of fierce attack here. Plenty of speed around the Chateau through Chateau Pass. And Morgan 47.31, second fastest overall. This is the Riley 12.4 Special, really pretty car of Greg Larigo. Riley started as a bike manufacturer in Coventry, moved into cars, eventually subsumed into British Leyland. This is a really pretty car from 1932, just 1500cc, four-cylinder, charging on towards the line, keeping it all neat and tidy, clips a marker, that's all fair game, and across the line, third overall, 48.15. Adam Painter in a much more upright car. This is a 1935 Maserati 4CS. 4CM, the monoposto racing car. This, the sports road car. Cars like this won their class in Emilia Emilia in 1935 and 1936. Another upright Italian. This is 1933 Alfa Romeo 1750 GS of Nicolas Rossi. And of course, Alfa Romeo's racing arm taken over by Enzo Ferrari, former driver who became the team manager. And then whatever happened to him? Had a dream about making cars. Neat and tidy looking run, avoiding the grass, not overstressing the machinery either. Well, this isn't going to trouble the top runners. Dougal Corley blasts away from the line in his well-known GM Fraser-Nash Piglet. Chassis from GM cars. They made light cars between 1910 and 1925 and very popular bases for hill climb cars with a Fraser-Nash engine. And Dougal always driving with plenty of verve. This car absolutely typical of its kind. Look how much wider the front track is than the rear. Perfect for hill climbing, gives you lots of bite on turn in. Great run from Dougal, second fastest, 46.38. This is Mark Brett in his 1937 Bellamy Ford Special. This built by Leslie Bellamy on a Ford Model 18 chassis. Flathead engine and Ford's familiar split front axle gives it independent front suspension. Built for trials and hill climbs, also raced at Brooklands in period. This is a very spirited looking run as well, and a very individual car. Fourth fastest, 47.97. Well, here's the top three with David Pryke, Dougal Corley chasing Eddie Williams. In between the competitive runs, there were some impressive demonstrations on the hill. In a mouth-watering selection of modern hypercars was the Bugatti Veyron Supersport, the world's fastest road car. 1930s looks, the inspiration for the very quirky Ziclette Coupe. There's the wonderful sight of all three Works Austin single-seater racers from the 1930s back together. A glimpse of the future, perhaps, the Rasa hydrogen-powered car. Stunt driver Alistair Moffat showed off some impressive skills, heading up the hill and saving tyres at the same time. And all that before tipping. He'd have needed an empty stomach as well for his world record attempt, which he successfully completed, the fastest 5 figure-of-8s around parked cars, and not a damaged panel in sight. Entertainment everywhere you looked at Chateau Impney in stunning conditions. And the earth shook as a Top Fuel dragster blasted past the chateau, thrilling the crowds.
Here at the Chateau Impney Hillclimb, the paddock is open to the public, meaning you can get right up to the cars and have a really good look around. And if you're lucky, you may catch up with a driver or two as well. So Annie, you're sat in front of a beautiful machine. Tell us what it is and all about it.
It's the best car on the planet. It is a 1914 GN with a 1908 Jap aero engine in it. So it's a V8 5 litre or fraction over 5 litres aero engine, which is extremely lightweight. Not that powerful, but very, very torquey. So coupled with the GN, it's just hilarious.
So in short, it's tiny and fast.
Exactly. Tiny and fast with very little brakes. So it adds a whole heap extra to the excitement of the game. But yeah, it's just a joy to drive.
Is it? 'Cause, I mean, how much of it is kind of sheer pleasure and how much of it is white knuckles, terrifying?
I'd say it's all sheer pleasure, but that moment just as you're going up to the start line, you just get a flip-flop of your tummy, but other than that, actually, it's very well behaved, it's very reliable, she said. But we go down to the south of France, we cruise all over Europe.
So it's road legal as well?
Yeah, we drove it here to this event, so and all being well, I'll be driving it home this evening, so it's...
Wow.
good fun.
What's it like on a legal road?
Oh, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant because it's such a soft engine. It's really low compression. It's really gentle. It's not like most fast cars that are really high revvy and stressy. This is just really gentle. This does 35 miles to the gallon, so it's economical and fun. So.
You are sat in front of a car that looks to me to be not dissimilar to a classic Porsche.
Yep, it was. In fact, it's based on an old Porsche from the 50s. The guy who originally bought it was a Porsche Volkswagen dealership owner and racer, and decided he wanted to build his own car. So this is the 9th special that he built, but this one was never finished. So it was driven 46 miles as a bare chassis, pushed into the back of the dealership workshop to be finished, and then never was. And it sat there for 50 years, and I bought it 10 years ago.
So why on earth did it sit doing nothing for 50 years?
Do you know, I don't know. I mean, David Small, he'd built 8 specials before this, and this was his last one. I just think life got in the way. It had a dust cover stuck on it. It sat in the corner of the dealership workshop. It was hiding in plain sight.
Now, am I right in saying up until a few moments ago, you'd never actually driven it?
That's right. In fact, the 47th mile we put on the car was literally up the hill climb. So it was almost a case of, you know, where's the switchgear, and because it's right-hand drive, so it's a right-hand drive car, but right-hand drive gear change. I did find myself reaching for the handbrake to change gear on a couple of occasions.
Why is it taking you 10 years to get behind the wheel?
I didn't want to build something that only a mother could love. It had to be something that was, you know, had a lovely shape to it. So that's why it's taken time.
Fair play. So we're going to see a lot of this at race events over the years.
I hope so. And we're going to do some land speed stuff as well. Just particular classes we want to have a crack at, because, you know, it's small, it's aerodynamic, it's got a flat floor, so it should punch. You know, it punches a very small hole through the air.
The first ever Chateau Impney Hillclimb was organised by the Hagley and District Light Car Club back on the 29th of September 1957. It quickly established itself and ran for 10 years, developing a reputation as arguably the most picturesque event of its kind, where competitors would do battle on a course that ran for just 800 yards, threading its way between the stunning woods and lakes within the grounds of this amazing building. However, in 2015, when the event was re-established on the Motorsport calendar, the track was extended to 1,000 yards, or just over half a mile, making it even more of a challenge, although just as picturesque as before. Let's take a look at the new layout. As the lights go out, the competitors blast away from the start line and try to take advantage of the short straight down to the first turn. Then it's into the tricky bridge corner, a sharp left-hander that's caught out a few drivers in the past. Before a run-up between the trees to Raven's Nest. Here it's all about hanging on as close as you dare to the tree before exiting, and getting your foot down in front of the chateau. Then you reach the roundabout. Here the track dips away and drivers have to fight the steering as the car goes light. Now they have to try and keep the revs up to escape the slowest part of the course, as it's a short charge before the tight little Corbett's chicane. Then it's onto the home stretch, with a fast wiggle through the paddock Hesses before crossing the line and hopefully celebrating a personal best.
Back to the hill for our next group of cars. First up, James Collins in his Hudson Super 6. Well, that's not the way you treat a car that's just celebrated its 100th birthday. Apparently it is. 6-cylinder, 5 litres of American power. And this beautiful Edwardian boat-tailed speedster absolutely flying up the hill. Winston Teague blasts off the line in his familiar GN Wasp 1922. Oh, lots of wheel chatter as he slows down for Bridge Corner. And again, you can see that narrow rear end, wide front track, the GM cycle car engine This has got a twin-cylinder Jap engine. Jap engines built in North London, and again, very popular with the specials builders. Winston Watt, 4854. This is the sister car, the Nat of John Wiseman. Jap Industries, JAP, John Alfred Prestwich. And these cars also went into 500cc races to become Formula 3 back in the 1950s. Very spirited drive, and he goes up in a 51.42. Well, here's another twin. This is Sue Derbyshire in her 1929 Morgan Super Aero. She started out in sidecars, moved on to four wheels, clearly happy with three. She hustles the Morgan three-wheeler. See how much body weight is a part of driving these cars. 47.81 for Sue, from three wheels to six then. This is the classic rear wheel hill climb setup for more traction, particularly in the 1930s when the tracks were still loose. Tom Hardman in this unique 1937 offset single-seater MG Bellevue. Just look at the beautiful alloy body, supercharged, six-cylinder, 1500cc. What a beautiful machine, and nicely driven as well, 47.14. Hannah Entignap now from a well-known competition family, Morgan GN Salome. This GN four-wheel cycle car chassis with a Morgan twin-cylinder engine. Nice and neatly driven as well. Again, the wide front end, giving her plenty of grip in the corners. And Hannah Entignap, second overall, 46.66. James Baxter charging on in the 1935 Riley Sprite ERA. The ERA link, by the way, coming from designer Reed Railton, responsible for Malcolm Campbell's Bluebirds and developing Riley sports cars and English racing automobiles as well. He was a busy man. Busy too, James Baxter, dab of opposite lot. This is a nice, aggressive run. Very nice indeed from James Baxter. He goes 43.71, top of the pile. Nick Topless in perhaps the most famous of the ERAs. This is R4D. English racing automobiles built by racing driver Raymond Mays on his estate in Bourne in Lincolnshire between the wars. And they had a lot of life on the hills after racing finished. And he goes 44.18 into second spot. Ian Baxter in the lovely 1937 Alta. Very Italianate look to this car. Ex-George Abacassis. And beautifully driven. He was trying to buy this car for 20 years before he succeeded in doing so, and now he's enjoying every minute, flips the marker. Nice looking run, and at the line, 43.47. Fastest of all. The times are tumbling. Ian Baxter ahead of James Baxter and Nick Topless, the top three.
The man tasked with putting all this together is Rod Spot, although it's not all work, as he does get to play out there as well.
Well, I'm very lucky to be racing a BRM P48 this weekend. It was raced in 1960 in the Formula 1 World Championship by Joe Bonnier. It's an incredibly exciting car, and I just wish I was a better driver, but great fun.
Tell us, what can we expect this year?
Well, to be honest with you, we every year try and exceed expectations and take the event to another level whilst keeping that real core, friendly, family atmosphere that we've had from year one. But this year we've got a Guinness World Record attempt from stunt driver Alistair Moffat. We've got the World Land Speed Record attempt car Bloodhound on display. We've got plenty of rally cars and supercars in the Michelin Supercar Expo, and as ever a fantastic lineup of classic cars racing against one another for the prestigious Ken Wharton Memorial Trophy. So lots and lots of things to do.
Now, if you're a classic car fan, there are some real beauties here that you may recognise. However, there are some rarities here too that might catch your eye. Look at this incredible machine behind us. I mean, it's a beautiful looking car, although it does seem, to my untrained eye, to be leaning to one side. What's that all about?
Well, it was built for going around oval track circuits with banked corners. So they indexed the centre of the car over to the inside, so it helped with the weight balance going around the oval tracks.
It's one of the most amazing looking cars going, but also it looks really hard to drive.
It is a bit long, isn't it? It's 22 foot 2 inches long.
But it's also road legal, right?
It is road legal, yes. Yes, it's all licensed for the road.
I could just imagine you at the lights outside the supermarket. Yeah. Civic Type R pulls up and you're like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. It was a straight 6, 3 litre, so it's noisy and fast.
Yes, it's quite a light car. It's only just over 800 kilos. So it's quite a light car. It's got 100 horsepower from the engine.
So Hotchkiss is obviously the name on the back, and some people may not realise that's also a manufacturer.
Yes, that's right. I knew nothing about Hotchkiss when I started this project, but they turn out to be an arms manufacturer, and they produce the Willys Jeep under licence. They built large, stately cars, equivalent of Bentleys and Rolls-Royce in the period.
Fantastic. What are you expecting from today?
Just to miss all the bales.
So Ian, tell me about your Beetle.
Well, it's a 1952 original paint barn find car that a friend of mine found in the mid-90s. Been in the barn for 30 years, really dirty and grubby, completely stock and original. And then I got it, upgraded the engine and box, put a roll cage in it, took it drag racing for a few years and had it on the road, had it as my daily driver car.
I love that it's the original paint, because I thought that it was like replica patina.
Sure.
But that's the real life.
Well, that's all everybody used to say to me when I first did it, when I cleaned it, is when are you going to paint it?
Really?
And now all they say is it a Porsche engine, because it's fast, So those two things are what crop up quite a lot.
So Ivan, here we are, sat in front of this beautiful car. Tell us all about it.
Well, what happened was I always wanted an early car. Even when I raced regattas, I always used to look at these blokes and think, oh, I wouldn't mind one of them. But obviously the last one of these sold for $8 million, so there wasn't much chance of me buying that. So I decided to build one. The original car, Mr. Peugeot, his chauffeur was a man called Goot, who raced little cars, and he wanted to get into Formula One. So he chatted up Mr. Peugeot and said, would you sponsor me to build a car? Well, he had no qualifications, and we're going back now to 1912. He said, yeah, okay, I will sponsor you. He said, but I don't want you to do anything at Peugeot because it'll upset them. Well, I've got a little factory just outside Paris. If you take that factory over, you can build the car and I will give you the money. And so they were known as the charlatans because they were convinced they were just nicking the money, Anyway, they obviously went round Paris and bought all the bits to build a car. But the main thing was that they produced the engine, which was a 16-valve, overhead cam, dry sump, proper racing engine that was just the best thing in the world. In fact, everybody copied it, even today. And Peugeot said, well, we'll see how it goes. And of course, it was so good. Next thing you know, it got a Peugeot badge on it, and that was it. So anyway, I found some really good pictures of the Indianapolis winning car, and we just literally looked at the picture and said, right, that bit goes there, that bit goes there. It's all made of 1914 bits, so it's been a fabulous thing to own, really, and a lot of fun, and I'm still working on it.
After what's been a scorching hot day out on track, it's time to relax, unwind, and enjoy a glass of the bubbly stuff. Cheers. In 2017, the incredible Group B rally cars made their debut here at the Chateau Impney Hillclimb with some demo runs for the fans to enjoy. But this year, they've upped the ante, taking part in their own timed competition. David, you are casually leaning against an absolutely beautiful 911, which has clearly seen a lot of life. What's interesting is we're used to seeing 911s on track, but this has had a very different use, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So this one was built from the factory as a rally car, built for the world's longest ever rally from London to Sydney in '77. And it did so well, it was leading into Singapore. The factory took their winning Le Mans driver and said, okay, Jürgen, you're now going to fly to Perth and support this car for the rest of the rally.
This is amazing. So effectively, you have the tools here to do any adventure you want on the planet.
You could take it pretty much anywhere, and single-handedly, which is the thing too. You don't need the big support crew and everything, just you and a co-driver and a few spares and some people you meet on the way.
I'm guessing this has no price. If someone came up to you with a checkbook, there's nothing they could put on there that would get it off you.
You know, if it's going to a good home, maybe, if it's going to a good home.
I think it's gorgeous, and long may the rallying continue.
The competition was fierce as these superb rally cars chewed up the course, taking no prisoners. The fastest run of all went to the ex-Works Ford Focus that Carlos Sainz put on the Monte Carlo Rally podium back in 2000. A 42.08 second run in the hands of Dave Wright, a 1999 British Junior Rally champion who clearly hasn't lost the skills. Lots more action still to come on the hill. This is Mark Riley in the 1952 Kramer Special. Absolutely typical of the small manufacturers that got into the 500cc racing formula. Category evolved into Formula 3. Drivers like Sterling Moss cut their teeth in these cars, and look how much you have to use your body weight to keep the balance of the car. A lot of time you see the drivers hanging on to the underneath to keep themselves in it. Spirited run from Mark Riley, 45.34. And this is Charles Reynolds in his 1953 Cooper Mark 7 with a V-twin Jap behind him, throbbing away. First ever British Formula 3 title in 1951 was won by Eric Brandon in a car like this. You can see how exposed the driver is. It's essentially him, a steering wheel and an engine. Motor racing hasn't changed much, has it, in the intervening half a century and more. 44.34 for Charles Reynolds. This is Mark Woodhouse, whose son Jack was the 2017 winner at Chateau Impney. This from 1959, an Elva Formula Junior, 1100cc A-Series engine, very popular front-engine racing series. You see the styling on the Van Wall Formula 1 car of the period. And a very spirited drive as well from Mark Woodhouse, whose brother is also competing in the class. Blast towards the line, 43.20, second quickest overall. That's thrown down the gauntlet for this man, brother David Woodhouse in his Dolphin International, a year younger than the Formula Junior Elva. And this is a very rare brand of cars, designed by John Crowthwaite, who had worked at Cooper and Lotus. And unlike his brother with a front-engine car, David with this rear-engine machine. And 47.12. Well, here's the Frog Eye Sprite of James Thacker. 1330 A-Series engine, so highly modified. Whoa! And into the barriers. So he's hit the straw bales, no damage to him, but that will have crumpled the front of the car. Justin Mears in his 1958 Cooper Monaco sports racer. He bought this car in the auction at Silverstone Classic a couple of years ago, went on to race it that weekend. Now he's a little bit more familiar with the machinery and hustling along superbly. Nice looking run from Justin, neat and tidy. Stay off the grass, avoid the markers if you can. Whoa, little bit of power on the exit. Still neat and tidy, this could be very quick. 42.67, the Cooper Monaco is our new leader. Guy Spollen here, we've already heard from his son Rod. Whoops! Little lock-up down there at Bridge Corner in the 1959 Lotus 15, and he's fishing for gears as well. Absolutely stunning, highly polished aluminium bodywork. Whoa! Avoid the bales! Yikes. Coventry Climax engine bringing the power in a little too quickly there. Justin Mayers, top of the pile from Ian Baxter and Mark Woodhouse.
Out in the grounds is the Concours d'Elegance. There's an opportunity to see some of these beautiful classic machines and some future classics. And moreover, there's also the opportunity to pick your favourite. David, the conditions are perfect. You and I are sat in the shade. There's some beautiful cars behind us. We're, of course, at the Concours d'Elegance. Tell us all about it.
We've done this for a number of years now. So what we've done this year is we've brought 5 British marques. So we've brought Aston Martin, Jaguar, Bentley, Lotus and Morgan. And what we've done is we've brought a classic section and a modern section just to see how those marques have changed over the years. So there's the Morgan three-wheeler, which is a family 4-seater. If you have a look round it, it's a small family. I'm assuming it's void of Isofix, is it? I think you have to have the door open to allow your legs to stick out. So does that deserve it better than the Project 7 car that's only 250 were built? The DBS there, which was used in Casino Royale. There's the Jaguar SS1, beautiful condition.
Well, here's my last one for you. If you could select one that you personally were going to charge up the hill in, that makes it slightly easier. What would you be choosing?
I think I would go for the Morgan three-wheeler.
Would you?
Because that's the slowest car here.
With the votes all in, the winners were Aston Martin, and in particular this drop-dead gorgeous 1955 DB24 Mark I. Wonderful. Sarah Thorne, 1958 Lotus 15, and the big bulge at the front to accommodate the 3.5-litre Buick V8, the engine that went on to become the Rover V8. Sarah's won the Betty Haig Trophy for the top lady driver at Goodwood in her past, and her husband Malcolm set the class record in this car in 2016 at the Hillclimb here. So this could be a competitive run. She knows what she's up against. The car is quick. And 45.36, Sarah Thorne, top of the class. 1959, Beau Williams in this Ferrari 250 Pininfarina body car. 6-litre, 8-cylinder, and the forerunner to the 250 GT Tour de France and the legendary GTO. Tony Bianchi in his 1958 Allard Farrelak Mark II. Racer Don Farrell had an Allard J2 and a Cadillac engine, and with the help of Allard he went about improving the suspension, the steering, the engine up to 6.4 litres, 400 brake horsepower. Front bodywork looks familiar. Yep, Maserati birdcage. And Tony Bianchi has been competing in his car very successfully for 40 years. Away from the line we go with Alex Simpson. Tony Bianchi, by the way, top of the class, 45.05. This is the 1948 Alvis Goodwin Special. You can hear the engine thrumming away in front. Very Italianate looks to this car. You see a real hint of Maserati around the nose with his 6-cylinder Alvis engine. Neat and tidy looking run down into the roundabout, really sitting high on the Alvis Special, and he clocks a 47.70. Very different look to the Cooper T45-51 of Rod Jolly. This single-seat race car from 1958, the sort that ushered in the rear-engine revolution in Formula One. Jack Brabham, the first man to win a Grand Prix with a rear-engine car in 1959, and it was a Cooper like this one. Well, Rod Jolly, not just a great preparer of historic cars, but a great peddler as well. And a really quick time for Rod Jolly, 42.95, second overall. From a couple of years earlier, this Curtis Indy car. the Offenhauser engine out front. The car dates from 1957, but cars like this were still racing firmly into the 60s before Lotus and the other British makes ushered in the rear engine revolution. Really unwieldy on the hills. It was built for high-speed ovals. 4.2 litre 4-cylinder Offie engine blasts across the line in 45.76. This beautiful Renault Alpine A110, the Alpine Berlinetta, successful in racing, in rallying, won the Monte Carlo Rally, hill climbing, and a drop-dead gorgeous road car. This is Robert Lawrence's version, spiritedly driven to a 49.94. And this is the Mini Cooper S of Graham Hill. No, not that one. 4-cylinder A-Series engine, this one 1275 Cooper S. Absolutely flying. The Coopers always good in racing, good in rallying, good in hill climbing as well. Still very popular to this day. This is another quick run. Across the line, 45.76. All trouble for John Barber in his 850 TC Nürburgring Fiat Abarth. Engine out the back in his car. This built on the longer 600 chassis. He went off under braking. This is debutant John Harrison in his Dodge Coronet. This may be the least suitable hill climb car of the lot. Steely determination. Note that he's got a knob on the steering wheel from a forklift truck to allow him to apply lots of lock, and he needs it in this wallowy barge of a car, all original, except the engine's had a freshen up. Well, he gets plenty of style points, and he is certainly enjoying himself. I'm sure there'll be a broad grin at the end of the run. And look at the tyre smoke boiling off the tyres behind him. Absolutely wonderful stuff. Lock to lock to lock to lock. Probably only about 6 turns of lock. Neatly done. He's avoided everything all the way up the hill. Fantastic entertainment from John Harrison. No change at the top. Justin Mears still on the top of the pile. As well as the track action, there was plenty to see and do both in and above the grounds of the Chateau.
So I love cars a lot, and there's a lot of cars here within the racing. It's crazy.
I've sat in my favourite car of all time, which was an XK150, which I'm absolutely chuffed to pieces about.
I just decided that it might be a nice family day out, so we've all come, there's 8 of us in total.
They go really fast and it's really exciting when you watch them.
Association races.
There's a mouth-watering array of machinery out here in the paddock, but it's often the stories behind them that help to make the cars really special. Tell us about this fabulous machine that you're sat in front of.
Well, this is the Mark I Type 15 VRM V16. So it's 1.5 litre 16 cylinders. So each pot is 93.25 cc.
So it can kick out a heck of a lot of power, in other words?
It revs up to 12,000 revs. At 11,005 it produces around 614 brake horsepower.
And it has a top speed of about 170 miles an hour?
This car was actually timed at Silverstone in 1950 at 206 miles an hour.
No! And of course this has had many famous pilots as well, hasn't it?
Yes, I mean this is Gonzalez, Parnell, Ken Wharton, have all driven the car. Sterling Moss indeed tried it as well. Didn't like it at all.
Not into it. Juan Manuel Fangio drove it as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He drove it in about 5 races, and indeed you'll see there's a horseshoe just on the air intake grille there, and that's a Fangio lucky horseshoe.
And of course it lives in a special home.
It lives at the National Motor Museum, Bewley. It's one of our permanent collection cars there. We do use our cars as much as we can. We've just had a massive engine rebuild on the car, which has stretched our funds, and indeed we're raising funds to pay the bill for the engine rebuild.
Wow. So, you are sat with brilliant IndyCar. Tell us all about it.
It's 1954 Curtis IndyCar. It ran at Indianapolis from 54 through to 59. But oddly, it also came over to Europe and raced at Monza in 1958. So it's raced, and it's won Indianapolis' round of the Formula One Drivers' Championship. And so it's a Formula One car, and its various drivers got Formula One World Championship points in it.
So what's it like when you get behind the wheel, knowing that the racing pedigree of this car is pretty high?
It's strange enough, it's the last thing on your mind is the pedigree. Just trying to keep it in a straight line tends to be the job. It's completely unsuited to a hill climb in Worcestershire. It's designed to go along big, fast, open tracks. It's a bit like riding a racehorse up Oxford Street just before Christmas.
Over 200 have tried to set the best times of the weekend, some with more luck than others. But it's time to find out who's going to be the king or queen of the hill for 2018.
Final runs on the hill. Roger Deans blasts away from the line in his Formula 5000 Lola. It's 1968 T142. Whoa, on the grass. And just about gathers it up. Well, that's going to put the kibosh on the run, I'm afraid. The car was 4th in the British 5000 Championship back in 1969. Away goes Ross Shaw in her Alpha Julia Sprint GT. 1600cc twin cam 4-cylinder engine. This car dates back to 1964. And clearly one of Bertoni's most beautiful bodies. GT and GTV, still hugely sought after cars, very competitive in all forms of racing, rallying and hill climbing. This car not too far from road specification. Rod Shaw 48.58. Oh, David Giddin in the Lotus pinching an inch there, just got away with that in Raven's Nest. They're going to put wheels on the grass here. It is very dry, but it doesn't help with traction. This Lotus 23B, beautiful little hill climb car. Sports racers so competitive on the hills, light, nimble, just enough power from their Coventry Climax engine. 41.61, cracking run. This is the other end of the horsepower range with Justin Mears in his Lola T70 Mark II, Can-Am car. 5-litre Chevy V8 thundering away behind his head. Those hill-borne injector stacks, so typical of the period. All the power, but it's got weight as well. Ideal for high-speed tracks, not quite so much for this narrow driveway, but he's pushing on, really hustling it towards the line. Great run from Justin Mears. Justin Mears fastest, 41.38. Paul Matty, Lotus Prepara par excellence, competes beautifully as well and cuts the grass as well on his way past the Chateau, down to the roundabout in his Formula 2 Lotus 35. And this might be the ideal kind of car for the hill. You can place the wheels perfectly, light, nimble, powerful. Great looking run from Paul Matty. This is going to challenge the top times. And just a little lift at the line, 41.43. Paul Matty, third fastest in his Lotus 35. This is Malcolm Thorne in his Lotus 35 Formula 2 car. Piling the pressure on the front runners. A little wide there, out of Raven's Nest. Got to keep the power on now. Cuts the corner on the run down towards the roundabout. The record on the hill, 39.33, and in these beautiful conditions, that could be coming under threat. through the slowest part, Corbett chicane, and now just the sweeps through the S's remain. Malcolm Thorne really on it, picking up the corner markers, and at the line, he goes fastest of all. It is a new record for Malcolm Thorne, 38.86. He tops the pile. Well, the pressure's really on now for Ewan Cameron in the Formula 5000. Harrier, 44.24 earlier on. Really needs something more. Oh, he's overcooked it into Raven's Nest. Loops the long wheelbase Harrier around. And unfortunately, that means that he will not be challenging Malcolm Thorne. Last couple of runners, and it looks as though Malcolm Thorne may have done enough. Well, Ewan Cameron was in too deep, and he knew it early on. The tail was already coming around onto the brakes to make everything stop. No damage. Final car on the hill, Martin Jones, the 2016 champion, our 2017 champion, not making a last run. So what can he do in the coupe? He had a cracking time early on. Malcolm Thorne's really raised the bar and he's lost it. Oh, look at that. Frustrated with himself, loops it round a Raven's Nest. He was chasing the record, but he didn't get there. And that means our 2018 winner and new record holder is Malcolm Thorne. The first run from Martin Jones, still good enough for second, ahead of Justin Mears in the Can-Am Lola. And the Ken Wharton Trophy presented to our winner.
Very pleasing, difficult. Fortunately, my last run beat my earlier time. Ended up being the smoothest that I ever produced. I'm not the smoothest of drivers, but it also beat Jack Woodhouse's record, which was very fortunate for me.
Well, we've had another wonderful event here at the Chateau Impney Hillclimb with plenty of drama out on the hill. But it's time to say farewell for now. We'll just have to reconvene here again next year and do it all again.